Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, people often like to argue about what's the best cartridge to carry in a situation where you have limited number of rounds. And, today we're looking at an interesting little firearm that is one take on that opinion. I have many people that they have their favorites, I know people that carry 22 Magnum. And of course, a lot of people carry 9mm and they love it. It's a reliable cartridge. 40 Smith & Wesson. I used to carry that one quite a bit. 38 Special Plus P. I still carry that one today, oftentimes in a 5-shot revolver. 10mm, one of my favorites. And of course, good old 45 ACP. Well, Bond Arms has got their own answer to that low capacity question, and that's 4570. Yeah. We're going to talk about this and a whole lot more in just a minute. All right, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've been watching our videos and just haven't had a chance to do so before now and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can do that by either finding that little subscribe button in the lower right corner of your screen there. You can scroll down below the video from a mobile device and you can hit subscribe that way. Don't forget the bell icon, that way you know when we do something new. It's a simple thing that helps out a whole lot and we really appreciate it. So, Bond Arms Cyclops. Wow. I have shot a number of these little single-shot pistols before, little Derringers and such like this, and they're a lot of fun. And, to me, at the end of the day, a gun has to make sense, and we are definitely going to talk about whether this makes sense or not. It's a very cool concept. The very fact that somebody did this, I often wonder what the development meeting for this item was like, you know what I mean? But let's start off the way we normally would with a little size comparison, because I think that's important. To me, if I'm going to carry something that's supposed to be small, and the trade-off is it's small but I'm getting a powerful cartridge, well, how much am I really saving as far as the size? So, a common carry gun of mine is a little 5-shot 38 Smith here. It's a little 642 airweight. Now, just looking at them, obviously they're not the exact same size. They're not supposed to be, but you can see that as far as length, you're managing about the same amount of gun, actually a little bit more. You get a bigger grip on this Cyclops, and there are some other things that are smaller, trigger guard and all that. But basically, what I'm getting at is these guns are very close to the same size. And this one weighs twice as much. This is a 28-ounce gun versus a 14-ounce gun. And that's a significant difference. When you're carrying something and one of them is double the weight, it's definitely going to come down to asking some questions about comfort. I've got 1 round in a 28-ounce gun. I've got 5 rounds in a 14-ounce gun. And I'm not saying that your decision should be based entirely upon something like that, but I definitely think it's something you need to think about. All right, we're going to jump right into the features here. But before we do, we're going to take just a moment to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Bond Arms Cyclops in 4570. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearm safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So, to verify that we are safe on this, you got a little lever right here, and you'll pull that down, and then you'll see the barrel will just tip right up and over. And you can easily verify now that you are clear and safe. It's a pretty simple mechanism. There's not a whole lot to really talk about as far as features, because obviously it's a single shot. You've got a front sight here that is made to go with this built-in notch in the rear, okay? And you've got a barrel that is taken up almost entirely by the cartridge itself. So if you look here, it only hits rifling for this period right at the end. So you're definitely shooting a very, it's a very short barrel. when you get right down to it. And so it's going to have the same kind of effects if you've shot anything that's a short barrel. You know that it's definitely not a precision instrument. It's going to take a lot of practice. Now, the other thing you have to think about is the trigger. Now, this thing has kind of a tiny trigger guard, which is not my favorite in the world, but it is a single shot, so I think I can probably get by with that. But this is a single action, and of course, it's about a 7-pound trigger pull here, and you need to make sure you get on it kind of straight, because you could feel it. It's definitely, takes quite a bit of force to get that. And the way it articulates, if you'll notice, you see how the whole mechanism kind of slides, downward. So a lot of the force that you're putting into the trigger, it's not going straight back. It's going to cant this entire mechanism down and backwards. So it feels like a heavier trigger than it is. And 7 pounds is not a light trigger to begin with. So just be mindful when you shoot this, because it's going to feel strange. You've got this decent sized rubber grip here. It's textured pretty good, which isn't going to make a whole lot of difference, because no matter how good of a grip you get on this thing, when you start shooting it, you're going to have to hang on for dear life anyway, and your hands are definitely going to fly around all over the place. We'll talk about that in just a second at the range. But, it's a simple gun, simple setup, built-in sight, simple trigger, single shot. It's very heavy. Obviously, the weight and bulk of this is designed entirely around the fact that it is handling such a powerful cartridge as this. That's what all of this weight is. Because I've got to shoot other Bond Arms little handguns like this before, and I think they're well made, and this is by far the heaviest, bulkiest thing of theirs I've had. And but obviously the reasons why make a lot of sense. And of course, you've got your little safety there. You can see that. Okay, so not a whole lot to it. Basic, meant to handle one shot of a nice big powerful round, which it can. Okay, so if you've watched this channel at all, you know that I'm not big on range videos, because you don't really learn anything from watching somebody else shoot. But if you want to get some entertainment, there are plenty of videos out there where people are shooting this. And I encourage you, if you want to have some fun watching those, go ahead. But let me explain a couple things to you. So there's a lot of different types of 45-70 cartridges, just like any other round. You have different grains, different performance levels between different cartridges. So, you take some of the lighter grade stuff that's, closer to 1,300 feet per second. Even those are going to hurt. They're really going to sting when you shoot them. And you've got stuff like for example, this Barnes Pioneer. Okay, this is a 400 grain. And this is rated like 1,600 feet per second. Now, of course, that's out of a 18-inch barrel. And I think it'll do like 17-15 out of like a 24-inch barrel. But either way, my point is that they make much more powerful cartridges on the top end. And if you're going to carry this, you need to think about what kind of cartridge you're going to have in this. And there's a lot of reasons for that. For me, something like this, if you're going to carry it, you're going to want to practice with it. And it's not any fun to shoot. It's very painful to shoot a gun like this. Like I say, even with the lower grain projectiles, the less powerful versions of this cartridge, it's still pretty painful. And now, obviously, it's a one-shot deal. So if you're willing to accept it's going to be painful and just be prepared for one shot, that's great. But I prefer to spend a little bit of time with whatever my carry gun is to make sure I'm proficient with it. But that's one of a lot of reasons that this doesn't make a lot of sense to me, is because I don't like the idea of having just one shot. And I also think there could be some potential problems explaining my choice of why I chose something like this versus something like, 9mm or 38 special or something. It just seems like the kind of thing that people with nothing better to do could really focus on. I guess the overkill aspects of having a cartridge like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it would happen, but to me, this is just asking for someone to start asking ridiculous questions. So it's probably not something I would do. It's something that's fun. You want to take it out and shoot some melons or something and have a good time, great. But I don't think I would seriously consider this because obviously, as a single shot item, it's going to be reliable. And Bond Arms has a good trigger mechanism in there. And their firearms seem to be very reliable, the ones I've used so far. So it's going to be reliable to shoot, but it's certainly going to be painful to shoot. So need to keep that in mind. Well, as far as carry, there's not a whole lot to say, except to say this. This is something that, this is the same size as a pretty good size, revolver. And you can carry these in a lot of different ways. You could pocket carry it in a sticky, just like I do, a 38. You could just carry it in your pocket with nothing. And of course, Bond Arms makes their own little custom leather holsters for these that are really nice. So you got a lot of different options to do that. But I want to kind of come back to something I mentioned in the beginning, though, and that's about the weight. And this is just where, just want to do a little thinking here. To me, like I say, this is cool, but this is kind of a gimmick to me. The idea of carrying a gigantic cartridge like that in a single shot, that can't be, to me, in my mind, this can't be anything more than a gimmick. It's just something that somebody thought would be cool. 38 Special, I realize, doesn't have the stopping power a lot of people want. They want something better. But I think 38 Special plus P is a good round, and I'm comfortable with 5 rounds of this all day long. And I can do that at half the weight of the more gimmicky option. So, while there's nothing wrong with this, if I'm actually thinking about something I'm seriously going to carry, to me, that would be a much more realistic option. As a matter of fact, a lot of your little semi-autos, are going to be better options too, because you take something like a little small Hellcat, it doesn't weigh that much more than that little Smith revolver does. So just keep in mind, it's neat, it's interesting to carry, but it's going to be easily twice the weight of a micro compact handgun or small revolver, and you're getting all that weight with only one shot. Well, so overall impressions of the Bond Arms Cyclops. I think this is a gun that somebody came up with because they could. That's really how I feel about it. I know a lot of people have expressed interest in wanting single shot, guns like this that handle rifle style cartridges and things of that nature. I'm just not I don't know, I guess this would make more sense to me if at the very least it was, say, a double barrel and you had 2 shots. And maybe not quite this ridiculous of a cartridge. But having 1 shot to me is, I don't mind having a low capacity, but single capacity is just not something I'm comfortable with. And plus, I don't like the idea of how heavy this is versus something that I can control a whole lot easier. I can get really good accuracy with something like this comparatively. Now, obviously, this is a snub-nosed revolver, and so we're not talking about either one of these winning any awards for precision shooting. But my point is that if I'm in a situation where I have to defend myself, I think I could comfortably see myself using something like this over something like this. This just seems more like a gimmick to me. And nothing against Bond Arms and the stuff they make. They make great stuff, and I think some of the others that they make are sensible options. For me, though, this just isn't one of them. It's heavy, it's one shot, and it's extremely hard on your hand. And if you want to see more about that, feel free to explore. There's plenty of hilarious videos out there on that, and I encourage you to look at it. And plus, for the money, this is like around $700 is the MSRP on this thing. $700 for a single shot gun that I'm never going to want to carry. No, it's not for me. It's interesting, and I'm glad I got to look at it, but it's definitely not something you're going to see me carry. But anyway, that's just my opinion. There may be some of you that love your single shots, and if you do, Bond Arms has done it again with another good quality offering. So if that's your thing, and you're used to their quality, you won't be disappointed with this one either. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. We'll be back soon, of course, with another video for you. So until that time, everybody, please stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.